Ladies and gentlemen, the American Jerry and Bulldog Nation, sit back and relax. This is going to be a long one, but it's going to be worth the watch. This is really what's going to amount to a lecture about the problems in the court system and the legal system, and give it to you from a perspective of someone who has been involved in the law my entire life. My father was a lawyer. I went to law school. I graduated from law school at only 21. From the time I was 18 all the way until I became a lawyer, I worked in a law firm as a quote-unquote gopher and law clerk. I've been practiced law up until 2013 till I retired. And I know what I'm talking about. And, you know, this is not going to focus on areas of the law that are narrowly focused, like, for example, civil rights, those type of issues. This is going to be a broad perspective of what's wrong with the legal and court system and the legal profession that applies to everybody. Plato, Aristotle's teacher, once said, "Injustice is the greatest evil, and justice is the greatest good." I agree with Plato's maxim. And I sit back on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, and as I watch politicians and lawyers and people in the legal profession pontificate on the television set, in the news, so forth and so on, we're a nation of laws, blah, 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 blah. And the bottom line is, folks, I will give it to you that maybe the American justice system is the best in the world. But you know what? That is not an excuse for what I'm about ready to share with you. I got 49 points to cover. 49. I'll cover them succinctly, concisely, clearly, and rapidly. First off, you may not realize this, but lawyers' free speech is completely muzzled. Bar associations, legal profession across this country restricts what lawyers can say about the system, about judges, about courts. You know what they say? We can't have you saying bad things because it will bring the courts and the system into irrepute. If there's something that needs to be said, why shouldn't the people that know what needs to be said not be allowed to say it? That's why you only hear this stuff from me. Mandatory bar associations, they make you join them. Why? So they can control you. The excuse of bar associations, well, we need to make sure that our profession upholds the highest legal standards and blah, 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 blah. No, it's to control lawyers. And who controls mandatory bar associations across the states like Kentucky? The big law firms. Why? They got time to do it. Your small lawyers are out there scrapping and scraping. They don't have time to mess with this stuff. But it's all about control. That's what it is. By the way, you know what? A lawyer that steals doesn't need a bar association. He can be charged with a crime. A lawyer that commits a fraud can be charged with fraud. A lawyer that commits malpractice can be sued for malpractice. You don't need the bar association rules to regulate lawyers. It's a crock. Justice is way too slow. It's unbelievable how slow the wheels of justice move. And that's for two reasons. One, lazy people, the bureaucracy of the system, how the system runs, and not enough funding. We'll get to that in a little bit. Judges decide slow. Folks, this goes on across this country every single day in courtrooms. Judges sit there and hear two sides make arguments. Domestic cases, motions on criminal case, all over the place. And rather to decide after they hear all that, or quickly, they'll say, I take it under submission. You sit around for months, at times. It makes no sense. Judges don't have deadlines, and they need deadlines to decide things. Alternative dispute resolution. This is a vogue thing in domestic cases, which is probably the only place that it really makes some sense. But the whole idea is to have mediations, alternative dispute resolutions, mandatory stuff. Why? To avoid jury trials. The little guy loses out when he gives up his right to a jury trial. That's what is bad about this new vogue thing going on in the legal system. Money and judicial campaigns. Most states, you raise money, you're elected by the folks, the voters, you raise money. And if anybody doesn't think money doesn't corrupt politicians and judges, really? All right. The legal profession, just like the medical profession, has become corporate. It's not a noble profession like it used to be. If you're a doctor, you're now owned by a system. If you're a lawyer, you're now generally, the big firms keep getting bigger. You're just a big number in that big old law firm. Law schools are failing. Folks, I'm telling you right now, I've been involved in hiring people coming out of law schools the last several years. I'm blown away how pathetic they are. Now, there's exceptions. Doesn't mean there's not some brilliant law students out there. But anybody that goes through law school, passes the bar, and can't write a letter is like, what? Law schools, it's about the money too, just like all other academia. Lawyers. This is a fact, folks. What do they focus on? Making money, being lazy while still making the money. And they're not about the cause. They're not. They're not about a cause. There's exceptions, but as a whole, the legal profession is about how much money they can take from you. Criminal defense lawyers, you hear me talk about this all the time. Criminal defense lawyers, what's their stick? Scare the hell out of you, so you got to pay more money. Exhibit A, Donald Trump right now is getting raped by lawyers in 4 states. They got lawyers he doesn't need, lawyers upon lawyers, lawyers doing this. On each of those cases, Donald Trump should hire one good, qualified local lawyer, and that's it. But no, he's getting raped. Billing by the hour. This applies to most legal work unless it's contingency. All I ever did really was contingency for the most part. Billing by the hour. Folks, do you think those lawyers that send you those bills write down their honest billing? Baloney. A lawyer could say 4 hours research. They didn't do any research. You could never disprove he didn't do the research for 4 hours. Then you got the churning of the work. Churn. What does that mean? Oh, you're just working the file. Yeah, we need to check this, work this. By the way, big law firms, you know what they do? They assign like 3 or 4 freaking lawyers to it, paralegals, everything else. They work it, they bill it. And those dumbass corporations pay those darn legal fees. Domestics is another place where it happens. Nothing makes a domestic relation lawyer happier than a fighting client. Takes forever. Large corporations, they get raped, but they don't seem to care. They just keep writing those checks to those big law firms. Another problem in the legal profession is this: we all just need to get along. Do you believe that they actually promote this? Do you want your lawyer to, civilly get along, but you want your lawyer to be best buddies with the lawyer on the other side? I don't think so. But they promote that. Let's have kumbaya as we battle this out. My number one bar issue was I fought too hard for my clients. I didn't get along with the lawyers on the other side. Robots, not advocates. Bar associations want every single lawyer to walk like a typical lawyer, talk like a typical lawyer. I'm not kidding you. If you went to a bar association function, I promise you, they all look, talk, walk the same. Not me. See what happens? Sellouts. Folks, this happens all the time, especially when your lawyer's chummy with the other side. They'll take a cut. Hey, They'll plead you guilty over here so they get a better deal with another client over here. Insurance company will pay a certain amount on this case to pay more on this case. Goes on all day long. Here's another thing bar association like. You shouldn't care. It's not personal. It's total bullshit. You want a lawyer that cares about you? Who doesn't care about you? A lawyer who treats you like a friend and someone he cares about or not? You betcha. That's not what the bar associations and law schools teach. Egos and awards. Next to doctors, no bigger egos than lawyers. And they like to hand out awards to each other that don't mean shit. All right, woke legal system. We found this out during COVID. Nobody, you know what? The wheels of justice should have kept turning during COVID. Nobody wanted to shut down and comply faster than our woke legal system. Trust me, folks, the legal system is woke. Complicated. The legal system and the court system make everything more complicated. Form for this, process this, blah, 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 instead of simple. True story. You know, there's a Kentucky appellate rule that if you don't put tape over a staple on your brief, they can reject your brief. True story, Josh, because that appellate judge might hurt his finger on that staple. It's a fact. Wham, bam, thank you, man. I'm going to take a shot at all the car accident lawyers. That's all they do. You know why they do it? Because it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Make that money, sell you out, get what they can get, give you 2/3, keep a third. See you later. That's a fact. Judicial more judges. Some people in the court system might love this. We need more judges. State legislatures need to fund them. More judges mean faster justice. Judicial competency. Folks, it's common knowledge. The reason why you get the judges you get, because all the top lawyers don't want to be a freaking judge because they don't make enough money. So what happens? You get the bottom of the barrel as judges. Not all the time, but that's true. And you know what they want? They want the state pension. That's why they become judges. Not because they want to be great judges. They want to be state pension. Legal fees can destroy people. Hell, they're trying to destroy Trump right now. Legal fees are just outrageous. And it's sad. They can actually destroy people. Too many laws and too many rules. Now, who would benefit, Josh Wentz, from too many laws and too many rules? You guessed it, the legal profession. They make sure the laws are written, the rules are written, they write the laws, they write the rules, they serve in the legislatures, they serve the legislature, they serve in Congress, they work for Congress, they're on staff, they write them, they make them, and then they make money advising you how to get around them or follow them. The complex tax code, this is Exhibit A, what I just spoke about. The tax code is unfreaking believable. Who makes the money? Lawyers. Complex regulations. You name the field. Okay, I've never done much legal work in mining. I can't imagine what those regulations are. Air travel. You name the industry, they got some regulations for them lawyers to make a little bit of money. Cicero once said, Cicero was the great orator and lawyer of Rome and the Republic. By the way, he was killed. Actually, he might have committed suicide upon threat of death. I forget. Law destroys liberty. That is a fact. And we're experiencing this in this country right now. The more rules, the more laws, the more liberty is lost. Bar counsel, power example. I love using this as an example because this was actually upheld as constitutional by a federal judge in the Sixth Circuit too. Doesn't mean it's right. Now just imagine this is a rule that was used against me that the Kentucky Supreme Court allows to exist. If the Kentucky Supreme Court suspends you more than 60 days, I'd get suspended 61. They allow bar counsel, who is your prosecutor, to object to your automatic reinstatement after 61 days. So rather than automatically come back in 61 days, you have to fight to get back. That's what happened to me, and that's why I had to retire. You ready for this? That is the same. What I just shared with you is the same as if a prosecutor, Josh Wentz, gets 61 days by Judge Grodehouse in Kenton County. Rather than get out in 61 days, that means that Rob Sanders could say, I object to Josh Wentz getting out of the Kenton County jail. Then Josh Wentz has to stay in the Kenton County jail until he convinces Judge Grodehouse that he can get out of jail while he's there for months and months and months. That is an example of what goes on these bar associations. You get caught up in that vortex, you're done. That's why I retired. You believe that? That's a fact. Now, here's something that will shock the hell out of you. They made this law. You don't think hospital and corporate law, have I blown your mind yet? This one will blow your mind. You don't think that the hospital insurance and corporate healthcare lobbyists rule the roost, pharma and all them? You ready for this one? Let's say you need a medical treatment to save your life, your wife's life, your child's life. You apply for approval from Anthem. Anthem turns it down. As a result of you not getting that test and that procedure under your insurance policy that you think is justified, your wife dies, your child dies because they didn't pay for it. You ready for this one? They set it up that the only option that you have, is to sue them for getting the procedure done or the money. You can't sue them. The law prohibits you from Congress. All your friends in Congress. Congress passed a law that says you cannot sue that insurance company for the death of your child. Even if you can prove that it was a direct result. If my child had this procedure, they do not die. That's the law. Who passed it? Congress. Why? Lobbyists. Money. There are laws in this country that if you knew what they were, there's no way. I got to ask you this. Is there one American citizen that believes in that law that I just said? Not one. And it exists because of the lobbyists. And you don't even know that it exists. You find out when it happens to you. Prosecutors generally do a good job. But nobody talks about this. Prosecutors have complete discretion. What does that mean? That means that those 4 prosecutors that charged Trump didn't have to. They didn't have to. Just like none of them are charging Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. The abuse of prosecutorial discretion, which is based in politics across this country, is unfreaking believable. Here's my favorite story. In the midst of the 2008-2009 real estate crisis, I bust with an insider that this mortgage company, a big national mortgage company, is forging appraisals. Contact the FBI. FBI says, Eric, we're too busy on terrorism right now. We can't do anything. That mortgage company never got prosecuted. By the way, law enforcement has the same discretion as prosecutors. Every police officer who pulls you over doesn't have to write you that ticket. They don't even have to arrest you. That is abused by police and prosecutors across this country. On the Eric Deters show today, had a great example where a judge let a 93-year-old man off the hook on a speeding and running a stop sign because he was trying to get his son, who was late to get his blood test, who's dying of cancer. You see, that judge had the discretion to dismiss that case. Think about it, folks. I got charged, never hit, never threatened to hit, never said one thing, never touched, never bumped my vehicle, nothing to my nephew. And I got charged with menacing, which is scaring somebody. What was that? That was Kenton County's discretion. That was Stacy Tapke's discretion. You see how it happens? See what side you're on. It's abused every single day. I've always said this. I've said this since I was a teenager. You know who the best cops are? The best cops are the ones that let all the little crap go. They used to bust us with alcohol. Dump it out, go home. That's the way it is. Immunity issue, folks. Do you know? You don't know this, because I get asked questions about this all the time. Judges, absolute immunity. Prosecutors, absolute immunity. On and on and on. Absolute, which means no way, no how, no matter what the hell they do. That's effed up. Social workers' power. You ready for this? Social workers across this, probation officers, child protective, all those, they work for the state, which means the state is immune. By the way, this goes all the way back to our English law, where the king could do no harm. That's where it all comes from. All the way back to good old England. Jamie Spinley liked to know that. You ready for this? They have immunity. Those social workers are little devils sometimes. Can't do a damn thing about it. There's some real rare exceptions. Workers' comp failures. Here's something you didn't know. Let me share it with you about workers' comp. I've actually advocated getting rid of workers' comp. Let me explain why. Do you know that workers' comp, if you're injured on the job, the only thing you're entitled to, ready, is part of your pay. You got to go through this process, partial disabled, full disabled, all this stuff, and your medical bills. All right? Guess what you don't get for workers' comp? Pain and suffering. All the hell you went through. You ready for this? If you're killed on the job, too bad. Medical bills, some small death benefit. It's a fact. Here's the other thing that happens. People game it. What if you work for Cintas, all right, and you get hurt on the job? Well, you can go to workers' comp. What if you get hurt at home? You don't get workers' comp, but you're still an employee by Cintas. What I advocate, and workers' comp costs businesses a fortune. Here's what I advocate. Get rid of workers' comp. Get rid of it. And guess what companies could do? Pay people health insurance. Why? Then if they get hurt, wherever they get hurt, they can get their medical bills paid. It doesn't just happen to be at work. Why should a company have to be obligated? You get hurt at work, wherever. Then the other thing you do, you allow them to sue their employer if their employer is negligence. Because right now, under workers' comp, if you get hurt on the job because your employer does something wrong, you don't get to sue them. Did you know that? You don't get to sue them. I've represented 2 people died of electrocution on the job. Electricians, one in Ohio, one in Kentucky. Nada. Think about that. It was the fault of the employer why they're electrocuted. They don't get to sue that employer for their real damages. And guess what? Employers can insure themselves against being sued for that. Nobody ever talks about this stuff. Workers' comp's a joke. All workers' comp does costs business too much and doesn't give the workers crap. I know what I'm talking about. HIPAA. Oh, this is one of my favorite. The Health Insurance Protection Act. All right. This was espoused as we're going to protect people's records, blah, 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 blah. Are you ready for this? You didn't know this. You do not have a private cause of action for violation of HIPAA. If Chuck Holbrook steals my HIPAA records, all right, now I can charge him with a crime, but if he takes my HIPAA records and puts them out on the internet, all right, and everybody knows everything about my medical history past, I can't sue Chuck for that. If a hospital violates your HIPAA rights, you can file a complaint. Do you know what HIPAA is really used for? Hospitals love HIPAA. Why? Because they use it to blackmail, extort, and control. Healthcare workers are not saying anything. You better not say anything about that patient we screwed up. You'll violate HIPAA law. They lie to you. You know why they lie to you? Whistleblowing isn't covered by HIPAA. All you healthcare workers out there, if you see patient Jane Jones got morphine and they killed her because she was allergic to morphine, you can call me. You can let me know. That ain't a violation of HIPAA. You could even give me the name of Jane Jones. HIPAA is for hospital control. It's a joke. A bad or biased judge, folks. I don't know if you've ever had this experience before. I have several times. I stood in front of Judge Daniel Reeves, who's now the chief judge of Federal District Court. By the way, it ain't personal. I mean, Judge Reeves doesn't like anybody. I kind of respect the guy. But man, one day in court, he was lowering the boom on me for a mistake an associate of mine made. Larry Forgy was blown away because he was with me, and I handled it really well. But it was a scary moment there for a while. I stood in front of Judge Mark Schweikert, who hated my guts, and called him evil, not knowing what he was going to do. He could have sentenced me to 6 months. I only got 15 days. I was like, phew. Bottom line is, folks, unless you've had the experience standing in front of a bad or a biased judge, and if you don't think that happens, you don't think it happens, let me tell you the model judge. The model judge pretends, I'm being serious, that he's God. Not a God complex, but he's always thinking, what would God do here? What is the law? What are the facts? They play cool. Good judges let lawyers spar a little bit. Good judges have compassion, empathy, justice. Good judges could hate a lawyer and hate a defendant and still rule impartially. But that doesn't always happen, and I hope you never have to face that. Banks, good old banks. Good old bank. Do you realize we've destroyed community banking in this country? Banks are too big to fail. It has been a terrible thing for our country. Back in the foreclosure days, 2008, 2009, you know what banks were doing? They were foreclosing on people where they didn't even have properly signed documents. It's crazy. I got to ask you a question. Do you think banks ever do anything that is the right thing to do, even though it violates a rule? Never. Never. I have two incredible good banks. The president of those two banks are my personal friends. I'm blessed to have that kind of a relationship. Even though I have that personal relationship, you know how many times I've heard this? Eric, we would love to do X, Y, Z, but bank regulations say we can't do A, B, C. Can't do it. Banks calling loans. Oh, this really burns my ass. Back in 2008, 2009, when it hit the fan, the countless people, and I'm going to name you, the Bank of Kentucky, big community bank here. By the way, they weren't the only ones. The Bank of Kentucky, I just knew a lot of people that they had this to them. Called loans on people that they have the power to call that loan. Could have rewritten it, could have renegotiated, whatever. No. Called the loans and destroyed people's lives. It's unbelievable. Why can they do that? Congress, bank lobby. That's why. Insurance, folks, I'm going to tell you something. Insurance is like a necessary evil. Although I contemplate, you got to have auto insurance under the law. I swear to you, when the day comes, by the way, the house that I live in now, when it was built, it was with cash. It wasn't with a mortgage. And I thought to myself about not insuring it. Insurance is such a necessary evil. I wish all of us had the balls to just not buy insurance and send insurance a message. Because it's one of those things where it's just catastrophic. But let's face it, you usually don't need it, do you? You usually don't need it. But it's like when you do need it, it can be catastrophic. But let me tell you about insurance companies. And for those of you that sell insurance, I'm sorry. For those of you that work in insurance companies, I'm sorry. Nothing personal. Well, it is personal for you adjusters, and it is personal for your corporate folks. It's not personal for you agents out there, okay? I have never seen, in all my years of working in the law business, one single time where an insurance company paid a claim that they didn't have to. Insurance never does a favor, ever. It's delay, defend, deny. The 3 Ds. And you know what, folks? The first thing an insurance company does is, how can we get out of paying this? You ready for this one? I learned this the hard way. Had my first fire loss case where the insurance company wouldn't pay on a fire loss. You know what an insurance company does? They investigate based upon motive, opportunity, and means. Motive, opportunity, and means. And do you know that an insurance company can just say, we think the homeowner has something to do with burning this place down. They could have no proof, and get away with stalling and delaying and not paying, force that person to go to court. And I can tell you right now, folks, I took that case down to court down in Grant County, and I've never hated a lawyer any more than the insurance lawyer that was on the other side. And it's one of those classic, this happens all the time when you represent plaintiffs. You can kick that lawyer's ass. You can freaking just do everything right, and you still lose because you get some Nimrods on a jury. And that was one of those cases, and that son of a bitch mocked me. He's a big insurance lawyer. He's one of these guys, I'm proud to represent this insurance company, and blah, 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 blah. Heartless, cold asshole. But that's insurance companies. Medical Protective, owned by Berkshire Hathaway. We just took the CEO's deposition in that case. It's hysterical. Well, the first thing I would like to say about myself is integrity is what matters most. Really? Really? Oh, they just make you sick. Just worried about the next call. Insurance sucks. Folks, if you're ever on a jury, I tell all my friends this. I've told Chuck, I've told Josh, I tell all my friends. If you're ever on a jury and somebody is injured, claiming to be injured, unless you think they're a complete fraud, you might think that they're a complete fraud. Unless you think they're a complete fraud, please give them the benefit of the doubt and know that there's an insurance company involved. They're not a party. They're not named, but they're the way, just think about this. The way the legal system works this out. How wrong is this? Juries never know that there's insurance. They don't know the doctor has insurance. They don't know the driver of that car has insurance. Juries are never told about the insurance. You think that's right? Damn right, it's wrong. And let me tell you why. They wouldn't say, well, that would make all the difference. Why couldn't a jury know all the facts? Say, based upon these injuries, there's a $100,000 policy. So that jury can factor all that in and say, well, we'll give them $50,000 or we'll give them the whole policy. You know, the insurance industry, and you know what they say? Well, this is going to increase rates. You know, we've got two of these verdicts, increase rates. By the way, I'm saving frivolous lawsuits for last. I'm looking forward to that one. Jails and medicine. I covered this in my police thing. You can't make this up, folks. Jails can not give your loved ones in jail. They could be in jail for a DUI and they don't get their heart medicine and they die. Too bad. Too bad. Statute of limitations, folks. Again, this is all by the insurance industry. Statute of limitations, hospital, corporate health care. Limits you from 1 year when you knew or should have known. There's exceptions. There's some have 2-year statutes. Real estate contracts can be 5, 10, 15. But if you're injured, it's generally a year. 2 years if it's an automobile accident. But folks, statute of limitations, they want to make it as small of a window as possible. Why the hell should we have statute of limitations that are so narrow? Why? It's wrong. Statute of repose. You know I love this because Durrani litigation. That means that you've got to bring your lawsuit within 4 years of when it happened, no matter what. How did I find out about the statute of repose? Lady comes to me and says, I think I got a great case. I said, well, tell me about that case. I had open heart surgery back in 2010. And in 2015, I went to a different heart surgeon, and the heart surgeon reported to me, came in the room and said, I'm sorry, you did not need that open heart surgery back in 2010. Your MRI, your CAT scan, you had no issue. That open heart surgery destroyed this woman's life, her marriage, her business, everything. I'm like, man, I got myself a case. Filed that lawsuit, right? Got a motion to dismiss by the opposing lawyer, arguing statute of repose. I'm like, what the hell's a statute of repose? They said, we don't care that you found out about this 5 years ago and you filed it within a year when you knew. Too bad, it's been 5 years. Ha, 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 ha. That cardiologist got away with doing an open heart surgery on somebody who didn't need it, because it was out of time, even though she didn't know about it. You ready for this? Durrani litigants. About 100 of them get cheated out of their case. Why? Because it's been over 4 years. Over 4 years. They just find out in 2013 if they had their surgery too bad. Unnecessary spine surgery, too bad. You ready for this? We argued to the Ohio court system that there should be an exception for fraud. When they're involved in fraudulently, remember, doctor always tell you, it'll take about a year to heal up. It'll take about a year to heal. Why? They're trained to tell you that. You know what they say? Well, we got to get these cases over. We got to end the issue sooner or later. No, it isn't. It's insurance, healthcare, lobbying bullshit. Now, you ready for this? Kentucky had a statute of repose, like a lot of states. And what did the Kentucky Supreme Court find? Unconstitutional. But Ohio found it constitutional. Why? Democrat Supreme Court in Kentucky, Republican Supreme Court in Ohio. Maureen O'Connor, $4 to $5 million from healthcare, insurance, hospitals, and big defense firms when she ran. Does that make sense? Statute of repose, unconstitutional this state, not unconstitutional that state. Limits on damages. Kentucky passed it. We're all found unconstitutional. Not Ohio. Ohio, if you ready for this? If a doctor F's you up in Ohio, the most that you can get for pain and suffering is $250,000. Unless it's sometimes $350,000. Actually, it's $350,000. I misspoke. $350,000. You ready for this? Unless it's a permanent organ, then it can be $500,000. So think about this. Durrani victims, unnecessary spine surgery. Folks, man, the pictures, what I've witnessed. I go to these meetings with these people and I cry. Okay, I'm a tough guy. I cry. These people have been in intractable pain, nonstop, every day. I've had some people call me on the phone. They say, Eric, I can't get my pain medicine. What do? I'm thinking about heroin. You know what I tell them? I said, you do whatever the hell you need to do. Would you not turn to heroin if you needed it for pain? I would. Let me tell you something, folks. They limit their pain and suffering award to $350,000 unless the jury says $500,000. That's bullshit, and it's wrong. And I'll bet you all you Ohio voters had no idea about the statute of repose, no idea on the limits on damages. But guess what? The state legislators that you voted for passed those laws. I wrote a letter to every Democrat legislature about the statute of repose in Ohio. Democrat legislatures. Guess how many responded? None. Employers. All right. Employment is at will, unless you got a contract. All right. But here is what's scary about employers in the law, and they get away with it. Negative references. Negative references. You know who they do it to? Healthcare industry. They own nurses. Do you know there's a special website that all the hospitals can go on to check out if a nurse is in the black box? So guess what they can tell you? Christ, Good Sam, TriHealth, UC. If you don't do X, Y, Z, we're going to have to boom, boom, boom. These nurses are freaking petrified. Petrified. By the way, I forgot something of banks. We don't need to go back to it. Just leave it right here. But let me tell you another thing that you need to know that's unjust. There's 3 major credit reporting services, right? Do you know anybody could just throw on there that you could have a legitimate dispute with your bank or anybody else about that bill? Legitimate. It could be an unlawful bill. They can throw it on your credit and nail you. And there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. It's the truth. I mean, it's just nonstop. I'm sure, this is long, folks, but if you watch this entire thing, I know you're blown away. And I want you to share it with the world. I saw somebody battle with creditors, my video that I did. I saw somebody that's from New York that lives in Florida shared it. And I said, that's awesome. I want to keep that up. All right. EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Guess what, folks? If you got a big case against an employer, you got to go through this whole process through the EEOC that gives you permission to sue them. You can't sue them unless you get permission from the EEOC to sue them. Schools immunity, folks. You ready for this? And that's why I'm blown away. I'm glad that little boy over and that little black boy, I say black boy only because you're going to remember who it was, because he was a little black boy, cute as hell, that went and killed himself from getting picked on at school. I'm glad they got that case resolved. But I want you to know when that first happened, all I could think of, well, they're going to lose because schools have immunity for that. They do. How they got that case settled or won, and I forget the process of it. But do you realize that? Schools have immunity. I represent, by the way, I was cool before it was cool, folks. When I was on the radio, WLW radio, I heard about all these bullying stories. I represented people bullied for free. And I tried like hell. We couldn't hold them liable. Immune. I mean, you talk about something that breaks my heart. Thank God none of our children were bullied. The angels, to my knowledge, haven't been bullied. I can't fathom what it's like for your child to get off the school bus and be crying, and you got to sit down with your kid, regardless of their age, and they've been bullied at school, and you're helpless. I can't fathom that. Cannot fathom that. And this will blow you guys. Those of you who think I'm woke, you're gonna love, or that I'm so anti-woke, you're gonna love this story. All right, so somebody I know, their kids go to Sabine Kid High School, and their kid was telling me about all the weird things going on, like people pretending to be a cat, people pretending to be this and everything else, and they had pictures. All right, and I was laughing. I said, "You gotta be kidding me!" No. So they sent me pictures. They sent me pictures of these kids that like think they're a cat acting like this. Now, me being a Trump conservative Republican, what would you think my reaction would be? You know what I did? I cried. You know why I cried? All I saw was a broken person. I'm not talking about these adult transies going around acting like Nimrods. This is a child, a teenager, whose life is so messed up, they're pretending to be a cat. I didn't give them scorn. I gave them understanding. But you know what? Those kids, if they're bullied, no recourse. No recourse. It's unbelievable. Now here, I'll save this for last. You've always heard about the McDonald's case. Well, the McDonald's case, folks, that coffee was 700 degrees. It was like 3 times hotter than all the other fast food coffees. It spills on her crotch. It caused 3rd-degree burns in an old lady's crotch. Can you imagine what that looked like? All they wanted was their medical bills paid. McDonald's said no. Said no. They go to a jury. The jury rings them up to about 700,000. They said, "Oh, a coffee spill, McDonald's coffee spill." Well, I got to tell you, they found out that McDonald's had countless complaints and didn't do a damn thing about it. And remember my negligence lecture: is it reasonable and expected that if you buy coffee through a drive-thru, you might spill it on you? Yes. Yes. That lady should have got $2 million. Think about your mom or your wife having third-degree burns in her crotch from coffee that was served way hotter than it needed to be. All right? So here's my point. See, the insurance industry and corporate health care, they get, lawsuits. Do you know who sues more than anybody else? The court system, federal, state, through our entire country is businesses suing businesses. You got Tesla suing Apple and Apple suing Facebook and all. I'm telling in your own town, businesses sue. It isn't injured people suing for being injured. Our whole country has gotten brainwashed from this. And remember, what I'm showing in this video is I am the only individual in Kentucky and Cincinnati, maybe in the whole country, who's a Trump-loving Republican conservative who gives a damn about people in a real freaking way. Because if you're a Republican, the teacup Republicans are all for these chamber folks, all the people that have given you these laws. The establishment Republicans have given you all these laws. It's a fact. There isn't frivolous lawsuits. By the way, I've been ruled to have filed a frivolous lawsuit, and it wasn't frivolous. There's frivolous lawsuit. Everybody has a right to bring a claim in the courtroom and take their shot with a legitimate basis. And I've always done that. But it is the way the public has been misinformed and sold a bag of goods. Now, one of the reasons why I love Trump, have you ever heard the words tort reform come out of his mouth? No, it was a platform issue for the teacup Republicans. Trump never mentions it. Why? Because his people would be hurt by that. That's another reason why I love Trump. Tort reform. You know what tort reform means? Tort means injury. Tort reform means screw the little guy. Screw the little guy. By the way, just think about this, folks, as I rail in my conclusion. How effed up is it that our Democrat and Republican Congress gave immunity to Big Pharma on the vax and everything else? How come they couldn't do this? All right, we will give you immunity except for fraud. Why give them blanket immunity even for fraud? Can't we say, okay, Pfizer, you do your thing, you're going to make a lot of money, but we're not going to give you immunity for fraud? Makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you? Folks, I'm carving out. Now, it's going to be a long slog. But I'm only 60 years old and I'm in good health. In fact, I'm going to do a health video here this week. It's going to blow your minds. But I have said this forever, and it's the truth. It was the platform that I ran for Kentucky governor. It will be the platform that I run on for Congress, U.S. Senate, and even maybe the presidency of the United States one day. And this is the platform. I believe in America. America's the greatest country ever. I'm old school family values, American values, founding fathers, love our history. It's the greatest country in the world. I will fight for it. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, so forth and so on. But I also fight for the little guy against the man every single day. And there's not enough people doing that. And I'm not talking about the people like Al Sharpton that it's the race thing. I'm fighting. Nah, that's all contrived. Color of their character of their skin, not the color of their skin. Character of their content of their character, not the color of their skin. But that is my path. And you know what? I'm there alone. What you just heard, if you were one of the smart ones that watched this all the way through and learned so much, name one other person in this country that is doing what I'm doing and saying what I'm doing. Nobody. That's my path. I want to be one of those constitutional conservative Republicans that the average Jane and Joe popular people can say, hey, I like that guy. And we're swimming up water because the establishment has all that power. Who doesn't like me? By the way, Chuck, you're going to love this. I made a list. This is funny. I made a list of, remember, for gratitude, I made a list of all the people that I knew that have died. And it's like, wow, it's like 110 people. Like, wow, you go through this list. I can't believe these people are all gone. Then I did a long list of all the people who have had bad luck happen to them. Say, my God, at least I haven't had anything like that happen to me. I made a list of all the incredible trials and tribulations I've had. It's like 30. I'm not kidding you. Like the Kentucky Bar Association, the Ohio Disciplinary Council, my dad, my brother. I mean, this long freaking list of these freaking battles that I freaking had. And I thought to myself, no one has been through what I've been through and is still standing. They try to destroy you. And I refuse to be destroyed. But in making that list, here's my point. In making that list, I realized, holy cow, the political establishment hates me. The Democratic Party hates me. Sounds like Trump done it. The media hates me. The wealthy people hate me. Corporate health care and hospitals hate me. The big law firms hate me. I mean, it's an unbelievable. Everybody hates me. I mean, I'm talking about hate. I can tell you right now, I guarantee you, I am public enemy number one at St. Elizabeth Medical Center, Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I guarantee you. So think about that. I battle that all day long. And let me tell you what that means. Lots of people. Here's the people in my world. This is funny, and I'm going to close with this. I got lots of dear friends. My inner circle is tight. My outer inner circle is tight. My outer circle is tight. Then I got friends, fans, all that. All right? Which make me able to do it. But you know what? I got haters. I got frenemies. And then I have these people, and this is a large group. They never say anything publicly, do anything publicly. And then when I run into them, they tell me how much they love everything that I do. And I joke because I said, well, could I have $100 to help me with the cause? I don't do that, but that's what they would do. It's pretty amazing. So I've said enough. This has been long, but worth it. Share this with everybody you can. By the way, folks, there isn't one person, one lawyer, one judge, one member of the Bar Association that could debate me on any of this. I'd be happy to, but they won't. This is the Bulldog. Every dog has her day. Have a good one.